Welcome to Radio Psychotropia, cinema for the criminal in you. Hello and welcome to Radio Psychotropia, the monthly podcast dedicated to weird and wild cinema for the criminal in you. This is the inaugural episode, and I'm your host, Robert Black. And my guest host is Conrad Del Bianco.
I'm in one ear.
This podcast is dedicated to the strange and bizarre cinema we grew up with that encompasses all eras and genres. Although we hold a pretty consistent spotlight on horror, this show is not exclusively dedicated to that genre. However, expect a lot of smut, and expect it often. We don't censor our selections.
In your face.
Mr. Del Bianco, what brings us here today?
Well, we're going to look at a film called Manborg. It was an enjoyable experience. I actually felt drawn into the film. I have to tell you, with some bigger budget efforts, I often find myself not giving a fuck about the characters. Whereas this one, I actually was, fairly moved by the whole performance. And even though the fact that it's a low budget effort, it still kept my imagination going.
This whole nightmare is my doing.
Soon I will bring hell to you.
All renegades will be terminated.
But now it seems time has run out for us all.
My name is Manborg.
I planned it so that you would reawaken here in the future and finish what you'd started all those years ago. You go make things right again. Game on.
Oh yeah!
Suck on this.
What if we're too late? It's never too late. Be a hero. From the heat.
Oh, that was intense.
Our first film is Manborg, the 2011 outlaw, no-budget science fiction film produced by the film collective Astron 6.
The emphasis being on ass.
Produced in someone's basement, that is. Don't let that discourage you from seeing it, however. It's a tour de force of ingenuity, underground aesthetic, and parody of cheesy 80s B flicks like Empire Pictures, Eliminators, and a cheesy 1986 Canadian film called The Vindicator. I don't know if Astron 6's collective has seen The Vindicator, but it bears a lot of similarity to Manborg.
Vindicator does?
Yes, it does.
I thought it was the Eliminators that was so similar.
It is. However, The Vindicator, it's pretty much the same premise, more or less. All three films are somewhat similar. The Vindicator is a revenge film. It has some similar themes to Manborg, as does The Eliminators. All three films have themes of redemption as well throughout their narratives. So obviously, Manborg had more than one influence. A lot of people believe that, it was solely based on Eliminators. I don't know. The Vindicator, other than a rampaging cyborg, has some very similar qualities. Astron 6, which one of us has been making fun of, is the production company, of course Canadian, and it was founded in 2007 by Adam Brooks and Jeremy Gillespie. The company later expanded to include Matt Kennedy, Connor Sweeney, and Steven Kostansky, who directed Manborg. They are now equal partners in the company. Astron 6, as it's known, is known for producing low-budget 80s eccentric independent films that often combine horror and comedy. The company was also the focus of the 2012 documentary No Sleep, No Surrender, which details the making of and the production of their 2011 film Father's Day. According to the documentary, they had more than a small dispute with Lloyd Kaufman, the president of Troma Films. He does not come off very well in the documentary at all.
Yeah, so the plot is basically it's set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland ruled by Count Dracula and his Nazi demon brethren. Manborg tells the tale of a reanimated soldier brought back to life as a klutzy cyborg who seeks vengeance for dying at the hands of our titular villain. After being captured and imprisoned, he fights alongside a cadre of rebels in an arena of death. The intrepid group plot to save Earth from the clutches of the Dark Lord, Draculon, which obviously is a reference to Dracula.
After Manborg becomes active in Megadeth City, he meets with resistance fighters that consist of a motley band. They all decide to fight against Count Draculon, as if there's anything else that there's to do other than sit in cells.
Yeah.
Justice is a gunfighter who resembles Billy Idol with an Australian accent. He's actually the most annoying character.
By far.
Yeah.
By far. And I know you said that his voice, his accent was supposed to be some play off of Goose. But let me tell you something. I went and watched Mad Max again right after I watched this film. Yeah. And I watched both the American overdub and the Australian one to see if his voice was in any way similar to Goose's.
You know what? He reminded me of Goose. It wasn't only the Australian connection.
You know what reminded me of? The guy in the Road Warrior, one of the mechanic's assistant. You know, 24 hours?
Well, yeah, okay, he looks like Goose.
You got 12.
A little bit like...
I got 12? He sounded like that guy. Yeah. He didn't sound like anything. Anyway, it was interesting that he actually attempted an accent, but as far as I'm concerned, he was the annoying character. But you know what? I'll tell you right now, it's almost as if he was like this comic character, or he was trying to make his character to be over the top comedic when they had already a lot of great comedic elements already established in the film.
Right.
You know, with number one man.
Number one man. I mean, right there.
Fucking
you really don't need any blonde-haired pseudo-Australian.
You know, anyone who says he killed one of theirs, I trust him. He can help us. You know, anyone who says that with the voice that he was using, I mean, I can't say enough about the use of voiceover in this film. Anyway,
it is a parody. At least I believe it was intended as a parody. So obviously they layered it on quite thick.
Oh yeah, no, they're having fun, definitely. Yeah. But I enjoyed that. Anyway, go on. You were saying.
Yeah. Mr. Blonde is joined by his sister Mina, and martial arts expert, which we've already mentioned, Number One Man.
Great name for a character.
Well, also the actor, has an impressive name, Ludwig Lee. So I mean,
he actually coordinated all his own stunts. Did you know that?
Yeah, that's they were very impressive. He's also a bit of a man of mystery here.
Basically, there's a Manborg, You know, and,
There's a
his
Manborg.
His brother dies, right?
Right.
So now we feel sorry for him
Right.
from the beginning.
Exactly.
And then he becomes Manborg. We don't know who made him into Manborg. He ends up on the streets of hell, or whatever
Yeah,
it is,
yeah.
hell in the future. And then he befriends Ludwig, number one man. And then they both, of course, end up in prison with jerk off from Australia and
his sister.
Mina,
Yeah.
right?
It's supposed to be the eye candy, I guess.
Yeah, she's the eye candy. I mean, you know, you need a couple good-looking girls in a film.
Well,
like this.
actually, we do get a couple of good-looking girls. Who was the other one? The creature. Shadow Woman. Omega.
Andrea
Yeah.
Carr plays her.
Andrea. Yeah.
That's more of like a European man sounding. I am Andrea. Anyway, you know what I really liked? Some of the attention to detail in this film was really interesting.
Yeah, it was actually quite phenomenal, the effort that they put into this. Usually when you explain to someone that, a bunch of people got together in a basement, put together costumes that they probably got from eBay or from the dollar store, and, you know, put together an actually watchable film. You know, there's a certain amount of skepticism that goes along with that. The truth is, this is actually as close to a professional production as you can imagine a film with a budget of only I believe $2,000 was or would be. The effects all created, I guess, with personal computers. Were quite excellent. I've seen far worse. Plus, we get stop motion animation. We get some really elaborate chase sequences, fight sequences, escape sequences. I mean, everything that you would imagine a far larger film would showcase. And, you know, granted, these characters are walking around in what is essentially a computer-generated world.
Yeah, they're
They
acting
initially,
off
of green screen, right?
Yeah,
The
or
film,
green basement.
Yeah, exactly. They drag you in to the story, and you're intrigued.
Yeah, you know what? Kudos has to be given to the actors to work in that environment and to actually make it halfway believable. Because I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of the making of for Star Wars or any of these other big budget films where they have green rooms and green screens. There's places. There's a lot of markings set up everywhere that this is where your eye is supposed to be. They actually have moving pieces coming along in case they have to act against a creature or an environment. These guys had nothing. They had nothing. It was just a green room, and they did it all. They did it as best as they could, but they did it quite well.
Yeah, I don't know if Kostansky would set the room up, with markings.
I saw
here,
the rooms.
Yeah, here you would have to hit your mark over here at such and such a time, and you have to react to this, and everything the way it was presented, although it is kind of an amateurish production in the sense that it's very homemade. Everything is convincing in that sense.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, this film was a lot of fun to watch. Okay,
Right.
and I keep hearkening back to big budget productions that I've seen in the last few years, and then I watched this film where I actually give a shit about these characters.
Right.
And when I watched Prometheus, I couldn't give a shit about anyone. The only character I gave a shit about wasn't even human. Okay. And I'm not talking about the alien. I'm talking, the whatever the cyborg that was in that film.
Yeah.
But at least this film was inhabited with creatures that you actually gave a shit about, and you were following the story along. It was okay. It's cheesy, but it's a lot of fun for what they've accomplished here. I mean, and they went through great pains to make the environments look as real as possible, or at least to not look as videotaped as possible. Remember we were talking about the use of filters in this film. They used a lot of filters to subdue colors and to sort of get. I think they were talking about the beginning scene. The outdoor scene was very sunny and beautiful, and they actually used a lot of filters on that to sort of downplay it, to make it look a lot more gritty, a lot more, I guess post-apocalyptic or whatever. Right. So I actually like what they've done with that. The soundtrack was pretty decent for this. A lot of Terminator references there, even in the montage in the beginning with the titles.
Very much so. Yeah.
Very much like Terminator. The sound of the soundtrack, like the dun, 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 whatever. The titles were good. A lot of the POV from Manborg, like his point of view. Showing the inside of his computer eye, I guess, like when he was targeting and doing stuff like that, reminded me of early Terminator. And actually a lot of great attention to detail. I mean, they didn't really have to throw in a lot of that stuff, and usually a smaller production doesn't have the time, or doesn't really have the sensitivity to throw in those details.
Right.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
plus, there's also the fight choreography. We're actually looking at a scene right now between Mina and, let's see, one of the villains. And the choreography in this is excellent. They could have cheated and actually went with extreme close-ups. They could have been, it could have been a montage of editing cuts. But looking at it now, you have everything in master shot, and they cut from that. So it's really not as much of a cheat as a much larger film would have to do.
Yeah.
So it feels like, they're actually fighting each other. They're not, it's not a sort of a music video montage.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I don't know if you noticed some of the other details too. They have these give blood signs all over the city.
Right.
Which, in a way, I thought it was a little bit too colorful for hell. That was my only critique of this hell of the future. There was a little bit too Blade Runner in terms of the color schemes.
Right.
I would have gone with this more reds and yellows and oranges or whatever. Might have been a little bit more effective. And though I like the submit, obey, give blood posters, I thought they should have absolutely filled the skyline.
Right.
What's more frightening than a hell that markets itself to death, right? What could be more frightening? That would have been a great gag. Submit, obey everywhere. So anyway, that's obviously I didn't make the film. What actually, the original script was actually much longer. It was 2 hours or so.
Right.
So they had a lot of ideas that they couldn't finish, and probably because it took them, like you were saying, 2-3 years just to finish what they did. For instance, Dracula was originally supposed to morph into the city, making him omnipresent, which he actually is in a few scenes where when they're in the dump or that area that number one man hides in.
Right.
You see that the garbage come together.
You're wondering. You see Dracula at the beginning, and he looks like your standard monster villain. At the end, he's transformed into this sort of godlike. At least you feel it's some sort of godlike presence.
Yeah, he seems to be in a lot of different scenes in terms of he's on the video monitors a lot. Right. You got his eyes on you. You have those scenes where the garbage seems to twist together and form a silhouette that people have to deal with from time to time. Yeah. So again, that must have been part of the broader idea that he was trying to achieve with this film.
Also, did we even find out where Dracula and his minions come from? We just know that one scientist somehow lets them into the world.
Yeah, with his computer.
We never find out what the reasoning was behind that instance.
Yeah.
What exactly possessed him to open up some sort of portal to
to hell,
to hell essentially, and let these creatures in.
It's also kind of weird that once they're in, that why would there still be society? Why would there still be a city?
Why would there still be humanity? They would like drain everyone.
Yeah, there's a few questions that are sort of like questions for people that want to have intelligence in their film, or some closure, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, if because the film is so fun to watch and it's a beer and pizza movie, then you sort of kind of gloss over all that and just enjoy it for what it is. I can't say enough though about the ridiculous use of voiceover in the number one man character. That was just fantastic stuff. Just really, really funny. One of my favorite scenes is actually when he says, "The power of the human spirit will never be obsolete." Like things like that.
It's essentially something right out of the Shaw Brothers film from the 70s.
Exactly.
Which has been badly dubbed over. And then just sort of, well, we compensate for the Cantonese language here, but, we'll throw in something, out of our ass that may seem something poetic. Well, it may seem like it's poetic. And here we have, I'll have to ask them about the Shaw Brothers influence.
Also, Rob, you were saying that it's a very low budget, but the guy spent a few years on it, right?
Well, yeah, I think he spent a year shooting it and about 2 years in post-production. This is actually not Astron 6's first film, as far as I know.
Well,
They've done shorts.
Father's Day, don't they? Or...
Yeah, they actually came out with Troma co-production Father's Day before this one. However, this may have been in production long before Father's Day, and they've done shorts prior to that. I'm not going to tell you the history of Astron 6 here. We're trying to talk about Manborg. However, Manborg itself, I would say it's a very successful melding of genres.
It's so many genres put into one. I mean, it's really interstitial art, right? You can't even classify it. It's sci-fi, horror, fantasy, comedy, adventure, action, and then goofball, cheesy 80s movies, if that's a genre.
Yeah.
Or it is now.
Could have used more sex, but,
They didn't have any sex.
Yeah, that's what I mean. What I mean, exactly.
So, wait a second. Would that be sex between the Manborg and a human, or?
Well, even Total Recall had, the three-breasted mutant woman.
That's true. That's true. We will never forget that. It's always burnt. That would be burned in my retinas forever. Yeah. Some of the things I also want to mention were there's some great poster art for this movie.
Right.
I'm not sure if it was it you that.
Yeah, I believe Jason Edmonston.
Right.
Came up with a key art for this.
Yeah, the original, right? And
the original, and I believe someone else.
Matthew Theroux. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Theron.
Well, it's TheRrieu. So I'm not from Quebec, and I know that French is our supposedly our other official language.
Quebec, though.
But yeah, that was some of the poster art for this was great. It just a lot of fun, and I don't know if you've seen poster art these days for some of the new productions, or even like
the poster art has
it's suffered.
Yeah, in a very large way. We've gone from some incredible poster art, just to pick a decade, the 70s, to I don't know what the hell this stuff. I mean. Like a cobbling together of bloody images from, like a high school student using Photoshop 7.0, and they come together with some sort of something. And yeah, that's the poster art.
Where they used to have like a painter or a graphic designer come up with a theme or a poster art that actually reflected like what was going on in the film, or at least the sensibilities or the style of the film. Right? I mean, I have my Mad Max poster downstairs. That thing's an original from Australia. It even has the Australian tagline on it, "The maximum force of the future," whereas I believe here it was like praise out there somewhere. But that thing's a beautiful piece of art. I mean, it's fantastic to look at. I still get compliments on it.
He actually ripped it off for a really cheesy film called Rotor.
Really?
Yeah, from the 80s.
Well, I'll forgive them for that. No, 80s. I can't. No. They couldn't have done that because Mad Max came out in the 70s.
Well, yeah, but this
78,
Rotor
79?
actually, Rotor actually, it's virtual. I should show it to you sometime. It's virtually, well, I wouldn't say virtually identical, but it's very similar, and you can tell it's heavily inspired by the Mad Max art.
Rob, would you say that you're an expert in Man-Borgian relations?
No.
Because your name is 3/5 like robot, right? So
Yeah.
I mean. Oh, by the way, you gotta love Manborg's metal goatee. Okay, did you notice this guy's got a metal goatee? I mean, nothing is more metal than a metal goatee.
If you want me to critique his look, it looks like someone bought a Borg costume from Fan Expo and sort of
like
started
Borg from Star Trek.
Yeah, and sort of started altering the costume, and that's probably what they did.
Well, he's got a couple of Darth Vader TIE Fighter solar panels on his arms.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice that? They're the ones that are then from the original Star Wars film. You know how they're okay. I can't believe I'm describing Darth Vader's fucking TIE Fighter to someone.
Okay, well,
You don't remember?
Yes,
Jesus
I remember
Christ.
perfectly.
Anyway, it's on his arms. It's on his arms.
The costume is a quasi fuck of all sorts of styles.
Oh, yeah.
Heavily inspired by the Borg, but I mean you have
By the dollar store.
and by
He actually shot this in a basement and at a warehouse called Super Blinds, which was a store in Winnipeg. Yeah, there's lots of dollar store items used in that Valley Village stuff, sports things as props, armor, gadgets. Like I mentioned, the Darth Vader TIE Fighter solar panel. Lots of stuff like that. Even his attention to detail with the crowd elements. Like he had like just a couple people, and he would just make them do things over and over again, and then interject those or splice them in to make it look like a sea of people. I mean, we're watching one of the crowd scenes right now.
Well, there is a lot of forced perspective. Another inspiration here would be, of course, Japanese anime. And as anyone who watches that knows, they utilize a lot of forced perspective, and you have that here to great effect because it hides the fact that they don't always have a set. In fact, they never had a set, but it emphasizes the actor's performance. Anyways, very entertaining film. I look forward to the editor coming from Astron 6, hopefully in 2014 or wherever.
That's the name of their next project?
Yeah, the editor, yes. It's a horror film. I believe it's starring their first star, too, Udo Kier, from Flesh for Frankenstein and Blood for Dracula. He's best known for that anyways. He was also in one of the Blade films. I believe the first one. He got out when it was good.
I liked Blade 2.
Okay, yeah, I liked it too. It's Guillermo.
But the third one?
Yeah,
Oh,
Guillermo del
Jesus.
Toro's Blade 2 was awesome, but yeah, the third one, forget it.
The third one.
And the Dracula in the third one. Anyways, I would take Draculon over the Dracula in the third Blade film. That's for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Who the hell played Dracula in bloody Blade 3, anyways? I mean, Jesus.
I remember that guy. Yeah, he was like a big male model or something like that.
Yeah,
he was like
either that or a
looked like he
wrestler.
should have been doing a Calvin Klein underwear ad or something.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm Dracula.
Yeah. I'm not going to mention anything about the casting agents in Hollywood. As a result, I don't want to cause a deluge of fucking hate mail toward.
As you take a swig of your beer.
That's right.
By the way, we are drinking beer
Yes.
and eating
Very
pizza.
very good foreign beer.
Yeah, foreign beer right now.
European beer.
Until
if you
we
wanna be
can't
specific.
name the actual brand
No,
because we're still
however-
working out.
Yeah, we're actually working out some sort of sponsorship deal with them.
Yeah, so we'll tell them that we're gonna mention their beer next time, and then hopefully we'll get more beer. I learned that off of Bob and Doug McKenzie album.
Hello, I'm Christopher, and you're listening to Radio Psychotropia, cinema for the criminal and you. Enjoy it.
Janie, 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 Janie.
Hello, this is Psychotropia. I'm Robert Black, and with me is Conrad Del Bianco.
Janie,
Our next
Janie.
film is entitled Janie. It's a 1970 sexploitation opus directed by one Jack Bravman and produced by Michael and Roberta Finlay. Janie is about a young woman with severe daddy issues who goes on a fucking and killing spree across New York State. Prior to filming Janie during the late 1960s, director Bravman had produced a few adult sexploitation titles for Distribpix, several of which Finlay directed, while it wouldn't be much of a stretch to deduce Brovman had gotten bitten by the directing bug from watching and working with Finlay. He also decided to borrow his style here. It's quite apparent in a number of scenes. He also borrowed his camera woman, his sound man, and his directorial partner, John Amiro. According to John Amiro's autobiography, From Porn to Prime Time, it was Jack Brovman who organized the production. He enlisted Mike and Roberta Finlay, as well as Amiro himself, financed the production, and hired an author by the name of James Foley to pen the script. Jack wanted to cast his then-girlfriend Linda as the film lead. He met her from doing photo spreads for local men's magazines, and he had fallen for her pretty hard. He wanted to conceal her identity, so he renamed her Mary Jane Carpenter. And he decided that she would go blonde. Now, they dyed her hair for the film. However, for certain scenes, you can plainly tell that she's wearing a blonde wig. And those scenes are pretty hilarious in the fact that you could recognize that it is a cheap wig and not her own dyed hair. Needless to say, alternating between various hairstyles and wigs, it was pretty bad for continuity. Although the production had a larger budget than what the Finlays were accustomed to from their previous films, the film fell victim to Brovman's lack of organizational skills. When they were well into the production, Brovman let Mike handle most of the directing. Roberta shot the entire film. Amiro was the production manager, but complained that he was essentially flying by the seat of his pants because of the lack of organization by Brovman. Michael and Roberta Finlay were pioneers in the 1960s for the roughie. That is a subgenre of film that consists of explicit sex and violence, usually based on sensationalistic headlines of the day.
This girl is no fun. She's as stupid as the rest of them. Think, Janie, think. What are you doing with her? What can you do to her to make her realize how stupid she is? She'll do anything for you. You can make her do anything. Get her to make love to a man while you watch. She'll hate it, but she'll do it. You'll make her do it.
The plot consists of Janie going on a murder spree. It starts off with her and her friend Carol picking up a young man and proceeding to convince Carol to have sex with him. Janie then pays Carol back for listening to her by running them both over with the young man's car. Janie goes around, wandering around, essentially going into people's houses, attracting funny-looking older men, stabbing them in the back, picking up lesbians, taking baths in their apartments, and of course, the lesbian winds up cut up in her bed. She goes on from there, essentially masturbating at every other interval in the film. And, you know, she tells her father these stories about what she does to people. And, of course, her father thinks it's fanciful imagination. When Jeannie goes on her little trips, we are accompanied by a droning what?
Narration.
Yeah, that's right.
Throughout the whole thing. To herself, in the first person,
Right.
you know, and just basically talking about how everyone's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's stupid, and she's better than everybody, so she's gonna kill everyone, and then after she's killed them, she's gonna masturbate to that. And during the whole thing, she's talking about going to see her father, but basically, the whole suspense to build up like to her father, the whole idea
the whole
of how
idea
shocking
of
it could
all
be
these
is
of all these
diminished.
events.
Because she's in the first shot, she's there with her father. Like it's throughout the whole film, she's there with her father.
Right.
So it's not even like a destination. It's really where they're telling the story from.
Right. The perspective essentially, they're telling it from the perspective that she's telling her father fanciful tales of her adventures, and of course her father's indulging her while they're both in bed together. And
As any good father should.
That's right. With their daughter.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, he doesn't believe a damn word that she says. You know, the fact that Janie is none too bright, or on first appearance is none too bright. However, we find out later on that perhaps she's a little more psychotic than her father believes.
Well, basically, this is a film for someone who has run out of things to jerk off to. Basically, okay, this is like a final resort.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. It was kind of artistic. Some of the scenes were
Janie
kind of
is
unintentionally
Janie
artistic.
is a grindhouse era film with artistic pretensions. You have a lot of Vaseline smeared over the lens in certain
You can hear
scenes.
the camera.
You can, you know, a lot of droning narration, soliloquies. You have occasionally okay cinematography where Janie is running along a long pier, chased by the producer. It's a type of exploitation film that could have only been made, you know, in the late 60s, early 70s, for a local circuit. And, you know, you put in a few naked girls, you shoot it as cheaply as possible. You cobble it together and, hey, you made a movie.
Yeah, and you have an audience.
Yeah, and, you know, whoever wants to see a naked girl on screen, that's your audience, basically. I can't say there's anything particularly shocking in this film. As a roughie, it's extremely tame. I'm very surprised at how tame it was, considering that the Finlay's previous films, including the Flesh trilogy, were more explicit, more sadistic, and to be frank, quite a bit more disturbing. This comes across as comical, and it doesn't really have any resonance. It's actually quite dull. Okay, you know, it's only an hour long, or just over an hour.
It's the longest hour ever, though.
Yeah, exactly. We're not really treated to any sex, unless you get off on very old men that are sort of the bastard cousin of Charles Bronson, making out with a very attractive Mary Jane Carpenter. You know, you're not going to get anything out of this, and even so, you're really grossed out at this guy kissing this young girl.
God, his tongue comes out like a turtle's head. Like it's fucking, it's messed up. He looks like he looks like Charles Bronson without his mustache.
Yeah.
You know, just pretty gross. But again, there were some unintentional artistic moments in the film. I just love watching old films with that type of color palette.
Right. I believe they shot this in Eastman Color.
Yeah.
If you know anything about Eastman Color, it has a very strong primary palette when viewed, and also when it ages, it kind of, there's a lot of color bleed. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, the reds become redder, and
yeah. Well, this looks like it was shot in Eastman color. It has the right look to it. I would say stick to the Flesh trilogy, even though that was shot, to be even cheaper than this. It really did not have the grating soundtrack from The Fear. There's a lot better roughies than Jamie.
And the Flesh trilogy predates this one, right?
You're right, by a couple of
So
years.
that's kind of
older.
strange that this became, some like a later work. This is where the progression.
Well, it's
is
not
going?
directed. It's not directed. Jack Bravman directed this. Bravman is best known for, excuse me, I'm sort of recovering from a cold here. For directing Zombie Nightmare in the 1980s, which was starring Adam West and the wrestler Thor. And I would have to say that, you know what, Janie is slightly better than Zombie Nightmare, although, I don't know, I like zombie films, so, Zombie Nightmare has its appeal. But it was interesting only in the fact that it's shot in a local town called Newmarket, Ontario, and that was it. But that's how I recognized Bravman's name, is from that film. And I was actually surprised that he worked with the Finlays. That was actually a bit of a revelation there. Not a great example of the Grindhouse era roughie.
I concur. Yeah.
If her father would have actually said that a long time ago, he wouldn't have had any trouble. So anyways, Janie ends up in an insane asylum, yelling for her daddy. Seeing exactly all the trouble that she went to get her to her daddy, I don't know. Well, I guess there's a point to the film. Avoid women with daddy issues.
No kidding.
Yeah. Well, it's no less misogynist than the message in the Flesh trilogy. So, whatever. Then again, maybe this film was written by Roberta Finlay, in which case, Roberta, you've got a few things to explain to us. Okay. Not that I'm implying that you perhaps knew a few women with daddy issues and you sort of mind that, or maybe it's closer to home, but I like to have some clarification with the message of this film. That's all. It seems to be actually quite prevalent in films produced by the Finlays. The Finlays were famous sexploitation producers in the late 60s and 70s, right up until Michael Findlay's death in 1977 on top of the Pan Am building. He was decapitated by he was decapitated by a helicopter.
You kidding me?
Well, Roberta's still alive, and I don't think she'd appreciate, having someone laugh at the death of her ex-husband.
No, but it's just so incredible. I mean, come on. I've never heard of anyone being decapitated by a helicopter. Have you? I mean, obviously you have.
These things happen. Granted, he died quite spectacularly. I think he was getting pickup shots for a film.
Were they doing a snuff film? Is that what?
You know what? They actually did buy a South American film. And they shot a snuff sequence, retitled the film Snuff, and released it on American audiences. And that's actually a real piece of shit, but
That's your professional opinion?
That's my professional opinion. Thankfully, Janie is considerably better. Anyways, getting back to the Finlays, they were quite notorious. They rose to some fame in certain circles for the production of what is now termed as the Flesh Trilogy. Essentially a group of black and white sexploitation pictures about a guy going around killing strippers. He dies at the end of each one, and he goes, somehow he survives, and he goes and, kills another bunch of strippers.
So basically, they didn't know they had a trilogy on their hands. They did
Well,
one film, and they go, wow, let's do another film with this guy.
Well, why the hell not? I mean, the first one was successful. They shot it for nothing. They didn't even use sync sound. They used MOS, meaning mit-out sound. Their films have droning narration, and Janie is yet another film with droning narration from the protagonist. So, we sit back and we hear her go on and on about, fucking up a certain girl, what she can do to this guy, what she can do to this old guy, and, so on and so forth. We get into, the average soliloquy. She waxes poetic on certain things. Oh, wow, what a beautiful flower. Stuff we're interested in.
I really want to fuck that flower.
That's right. Really do.
I wish I was a bee.
Janie, can't really recommend it. I believe it's from Something Weird. It's from a Something Weird DVD-R. And the print looks like absolute shit. There's a lot of print damage, but I mean, that's how you see a film like this. I mean, come on. The best alternative, other than seeing it in a grindhouse era theater, is maybe watching it with a really beat up print.
Well, that's basically the best print you can get, right? I mean, what else?
Well, who the hell is going to restore a film like Jade?
Yeah.
I don't know. The fact that these films were recovered at all by the late great Mike Rainey, which I'm sorry to say has left us recently. He did a service just finding these films. The fact that we can see them and actually have a sense of the history of this sort of film. Is pretty illuminating in and of itself. But I mean, there's so many other great roughies out there that you can see, and that are actually, granted, they're not great works of art, but I mean, the films of Sean Costello alone, of course, a great Water Power, I would highly recommend. But I mean, Janie is just not worth the effort to even put it on your DVD player.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too drawn out, and it's really
it's actually quite dull.
Yeah, but it's this weird trip. It just keeps going, and that soundtrack that just keeps droning along with the narration and the whatever. Some great silhouette scenes, but some great implied violence too.
Well,
right?
yeah, there's some
there wasn't very much violence, but the implied violence was actually pretty effective in some of the scenes.
In a couple of scenes at least. But I mean, roughies are supposed to cross the line.
Yeah,
they're supposed. Yeah, exactly. There really is no sex in Janie at all. There's a lot of nudity. You can't.
Well, the sex is under sheets.
Yeah, well,
I
mean,
get
even
it. It's
a lot of the
father, and it's really taboo. But that's the whole idea, right?
Right.
Why even?
But I mean, there's opportunity. Yeah, but there's opportunity. She could have had sex with a lesbian. She could have had sex with, who knows, her friend Carol. A couple other people. That weirdo that followed her on the pier. There was a lot of opportunities there for more violence. And more sex. And the only surprising thing about this is, films from that era, they really, managed to push a lot of taboo topics, and they also really were very explicit. Some of these films that they showed in grindhouse theaters then, If you still watch them today, they're quite shocking. At least I believe so. Some of them go way beyond the line. I mean, in some instances, the actresses in these films were recruited from bus stops, and that they would take the girls, and they would offer them some money, and you want to be in the film. It's about a bunch of Satanists that kidnap you and rape you. Okay, sure. And about a year after the film was completed, they would find out that the girl is 15 years old, and the film would be released anyways. So I mean, a lot of really questionable tactics were utilized when they would produce these types of films. Anyways, so no recommendation for Janie. See something else.
Unless you want something new to jerk off to, go for it.
Yeah, well,
Just put it on mute. It's way better.
okay.
It's way better. Watch it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Put the radio on. Anything.
Anything. Exactly. Okay, then. This is Robert Black for Radio Psychotropia.
Conrad Del Bianco.
And until next time.
Later.
Title track by Robert Black. Incidentals by Kevin MacLeod.
Janie.
Hello and welcome to Radio. Okay, we fucked that up royally again.
Janie.